Hi everyone, it's Christy, back to talk to you about the 5 steps for strategic planning. We've referred to some of them before, but what I'd like to do is give you an overview, and each week we're going to dive into a new one. But I'd like to revisit the 5 steps that you need to take in order to get to for you to be a master strategist and for you to actually create a strategic event. So the first thing you do, we talked about, is you need to know what the goal is. But what we do actually, you step back and you have what's called a master discovery session, and you bring in the key decision makers into that meeting. So whether that's your CEO, your CFO, your sales executive, SVP of sales, your chief technology officer, chief of staff, whoever it is in your specific organization, or if you're a not-for-profit, you bring in your executive director. The people who are responsible for setting the vision for the organization and who are going to be tasked with achieving the company's strategic objectives for the year, those are the people you want in this meeting. And what you need to do is, and we'll talk through how you get all these people to this meeting. So if your first thought is, I can't get these people into a room, that's okay, we're going to get you there. That's the point of this class. So you get those key people in the room. And one of the things that I have always found interesting is people tend to imagine there's much more consensus on some issues of importance than there actually is. And the reason that no one ever figures this out is because they either don't ask other people for their opinions, or people will self-censor once someone who outranks them speaks their opinion. So what you want to do at a master discovery session is bring all the key players together and establish what the strategic goals are for the year for the organization. Now, someone else has set those, so that's easy. We know what the 3 strategic objectives are. So let's imagine it's reduce churn by 15%. We're going to increase sales by 20%, and we are going to pick up 30% in market share, which is different than increasing sales. So one of the things that you need to do is go through your event calendar and say, okay, here are the events that we have on the calendar for this year. And then you're going to create a master strategic event calendar. So that master calendar has not just the traditional event date, name, location, how many people, whatever it is that you put on the calendar that you live and die by, because it's, this is where I'm going to be during these months. What's missing on most of those calendars is what of the company's strategic objectives does this event align with? And one of the great things about doing this and creating a master discovery session is if there is an event that is not on that calendar and does not meet one of the 3 strategic objectives for the organization, poof. Everybody's pet events, or they like to go to Atlanta, which is why we go to this event every year, because they love to go to the Marriott in Atlanta, whatever it may be. Those events suddenly go away, and there's no motion behind it, because if it does not fit into one of these 3 strategic objectives, the event shouldn't happen. So it takes a lot of politics and a lot of emotion out of the process. It also keeps everyone focused on the same goal and headed in the same direction, and it makes it impossible for people to have their own agenda. Now, they may still have their own agenda, but if everyone is on this strategic plan and on this strategic vision, and you are the master strategist, you have the ability to weed out those challenges and help correct them. And right now, my imagination is you do not have that authority, that voice, or even necessarily the vocabulary to articulate why events have to be strategic and why they have to meet these criteria. So once you have everyone in the room, and they say, okay, this is what we have for the event calendar for this year, and this is what we've established as our strategic goals are as an organization, you make sure that you have buy-in from that organization that you are going to be the person to spearhead these events. Because what you're going to do after you have your master discovery session is have a discovery session for every event. So the players may change. And that brings us to a discovery session. So you've established in your master discovery session what your 3 goals for the year are. And maybe some companies have 5, maybe some companies have 2. If there's more than 5, they probably can't get there because you can't have that many major initiatives in a year and still hit them. So you go to your discovery session because you know that now your sales meeting is on the horizon, and you bring the people who are associated with the sales meeting into a room to have a discovery session. So you may now not have the CEO at that meeting, but you're potentially going to have the EVP of sales. You're going to have your head of marketing. You may have your CFO there, whomever the decision makers are for that meeting, who's paying for it, who's responsible for its success, who is going to come down on you if it doesn't go as planned, and who does that person report to is an easy litmus test as to who should be in that room. Support people, anyone who has an opinion but not necessarily any skin in the game should not be there. This is a top level strategy meeting. This is not about brainstorming. This is not about being creative. This is nothing other than strategy, and as few people in that room as possible is what you want, because I'm not asking anyone for opinions. We are trying to come to a consensus around facts, which are based on strategic initiatives set by the master discovery session or confirmed by the mastery discovery session and set by either a board of directors or a CEO, shareholders, what have you. So at that discovery session, we say, okay, here's my master event calendar. The sales meeting is coming up. We know that this directly ties to two of our goals, which is to reduce churn, actually all three, reduce churn, increase market sales, and increase market size. Increase sales, increase market size. So how are we going to do that? Now, what happens traditionally is a marketer is going to say, well, the way we're going to do that and what I'm going to talk about is that I'm building a new website and it's going to have this, this, and this, and this is what I'm going to talk about, and this is what this meeting should be focused on. You've got your chief salesperson there who says, we are going to come out with a new comp plan and we're going to incentivize people, and that's what I want to talk about because that's how we're going to get there. And then you've got someone else in the room, perhaps your CTO, who says, we're picking up a new piece of technology which is going to streamline how we capture client orders and how inventory is managed, and I want to talk about that because we need to get everyone trained on this new software because we're going to streamline a process, and that's how we're going to reduce churn because our clients will be happier, and we're going to increase market share because we'll be able to process orders quicker. So just to know what the goal is isn't necessarily helpful all the way, because if you have three different people with three different opinions on how this goal should be achieved, that's not helpful. And the problem often is that this conversation doesn't happen. So if each of the executives who have skin in the game have a different vision of what the event should be, is it any wonder that people walk away unhappy because they each had a different goal walking into it as to how this event would be executed and what it should look and feel like. At the end of the day, you need to have a unified vision as to what the goal of the event is and make sure everyone's on the same page. How you do it is not actually up to the people in that room. And that's where things start to get really different and where things get really interesting. So if you can confirm that, okay, we are going to focus on these things for this event, and we are going to decide that we're going to hit pause on how to get there until we do data discovery, which is our next conversation, that's how you start to get strategic. The other thing is, if you want to prove this point, is I will often say to people, I will give them either they all get identical pieces of paper or they're all asked to text me in real time, tell me what you think the goal for this meeting should be. And again, I will get as many different responses as there are people in the room. But if you were to do that out loud, again, the CEO speaks and no one knows, or people are hardly going to contradict the CEO, or even if they do, the CEO makes a decision, and that's the way this meeting is going to go. By taking the personalities out of it and enabling people to speak freely and not have to self-censor, that then enables you to see just what people are thinking. And that information is going to become helpful. We're just going to hit pause on it for a moment. So when we establish, okay, this is our goal, we're all on the same page, let's just hit pause on exactly how we're going to get there. Now we need to go into data discovery, because if we can all agree that we need to increase sales, then what we need to do is figure out how to do that. And again, the marketing person is going to say, I want to talk about the new website. The CTO is going to say, I want to talk about the technology. The sales EVP is going to say, I want to talk about the commission structure. What you need to do is hit pause, because one of the universal principles that we'll be talking about, there are three, one of the most important ones is what's in it for me. And you need to, so the three universal principles, which again, we'll go over a couple times. I even have a beautiful graphic for it. It's not about you, what's in it for me, and give to gain. So what's in it for me is the question you have to answer for your attendees, because if you don't give them what they want, they will not give you what you want, and what you want is to influence behavior. So the first universal principle is it's not about me, it's not about you. So I don't care what you want to talk about or what you think is exciting. I need to focus on the attendees and answering the question of what's in it for them to come, to pay attention, and to change their behavior. So this is where things change, and this is how we get to data discovery. And we're going to have a data discovery expert named John Nawn guest lecture for us and really dive deep into what that is. But a quick top level is you go and you poll your top, middle, and lowest performers. If you're a not-for-profit, it's your top donors, your lapsed donors, donors who are not giving at full capacity, that may be giving someone else $10,000 a year and sending your particular organization $1,000 a year, so they're not living up to their giving capacity. Whatever it is, how you stratify your audience. And you want to talk to your top, your middle, and your low, for the sake of this conversation, if it's a salesperson, top, middle, and low donors or lapsed donors, and ask them, what is it, top donor, top salesperson, that keeps you coming back? What is it that's working? Tell me what it is that has you happy and successful. Middle person. Nobody really wants to live in the middle, right? You want to be the best. So what can we do for you to allow you to become a top performer? Low person. Nobody wants to be at the bottom of the rung. What do we need to do for you to move you to the middle, to help you make more money, to help you achieve more, to help you be more satisfied in what it is that you're doing? And when you have that information, that then allows you to do what's the next step, which is called strategic content creation. And you go back to the people from the discovery session and you say, this is what our audience is hungry for. This is what they need to hear. And we do strategic content creation. We need to create content around these topics, because if we give them what they want, which is this information or affirmation as it relates to perhaps your top salespeople, they will give you what you want, which is the desired behavior, which goes back to what we have established as our goals. So there is a process by which you create that data and then present it. And we'll go into all of that, because how it's presented, when it's presented, who presents it, all part of our strategic plan. After the event, the fifth step is measuring the value and the ROI. And most of us get confused about ROI. We hear about it and we're not quite sure what we're measuring. The reason that we struggle is because we don't have anything to measure that's concrete, because we are not administering our events correctly. They are not strategic. The minute you create a strategic event, you have hardcore results that you can measure. So the last step is to gather the data, measure it, evaluate it, and then you launch into your communication cycle and the process repeats. So 5 steps, each one of them critical. I want to give you an overview of them now, because we're going to continue to go deeper into them. But I want you to have a sense and start to have this aha moment of, when we talk about innovation, we want to innovate events. We want to innovate the way we think. We want to innovate the way we execute. This affects everything. It affects the way we serve the food, what food we serve. It affects room setup. It affects how you spend your money, what you spend your money on. It affects everything. And what this also does is it takes a lot of emotion out of the process, and it puts you as a master strategist, if that's the role you choose to take, as opposed to being an event strategist who's going to help execute this. You are the pinnacle of this process. You are the strategic intersection between sales and marketing. You are the single person who can make this happen, and who can execute and who can deliver this desired behavior. Excuse me. So those are the 5 steps to strategy. We're going to go into each one of them on a much deeper basis, but I wanted to give you a sense of what the strategic planning principles are and what you have to look forward to in the next couple weeks. So those are your strategic planning principles, and we're on to the next topic.